Thanks for joining us again for Thought for the Week. I imagine as you look back over the summer, you're aware that we've been watching both the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, and those have been in our minds. But there have been two historic events also mentioned on television. One was 50 years ago when England beat Germany in the World Cup final at Wembley. You may remember it, I confess I was watching it. The other was 100 years ago, particularly on the 1st of July at the Battle of the Somme, when something like 19,000 British soldiers suffered and were killed. Now, my dad happened to be at the Somme on that day. He survived. And years later, he said to me in a letter, "If you'd seen what I've seen, you couldn't believe in God." Well, I was able to share a little bit of my faith with him. And I think that before he died, he had some sort of faith in God. But he's not the only one who's told us how hard it is to hold on to things. Very recently, Prince Harry, together with some Olympic athletes, told us of the pains that they had been holding on to. Prince Harry obviously was looking back to the time when Princess Diana died, and for years he couldn't say anything about it. Now, if we come across people who are beginning to speak about the pains of the past, what's the best way of helping them? Can I suggest three things? The first is that we listen quietly. Don't make comments, ask questions. Let them say as much as they want to, quietly, hesitantly. Just listen intelligently and with interest. And then secondly, you may want to share gently. There may be something you have experienced that somehow could be shared with them, so they begin to feel that they're not the only person suffering like that. And then if it's appropriate, the third thing I would suggest is that just to pray sensitively. No sense of judgment or that they ought to be doing better or anything like that. Just bringing the situation, that the burden that they've carried, bring it to the Lord. After all, it was Jesus who said to his disciples, "Cast your burden upon the Lord and he will sustain you." Now, many of us pass a burden on to the Lord, but we still hang on to it. Well, it's time maybe for many people who have been carrying burdens to be able to let go because they've confessed them. So let's close with a prayer for ourselves and maybe for yourself if you've been carrying a burden as well. Lord, help me to know how best to listen and to respond to people I meet who are carrying a burden in their life. We ask that you'd lift it from them. Thank you. Amen. And I hope you'll be able to join us again next week.